Hello, and welcome to Madness of the Lesser Light. I am your host, Mike Luna. In this episode, I'll be reading a piece entitled
The Fruitcake Who Escaped from the Bakery. Hey there, I'm a fruitcake, and I'd like to tell my story. Now, first off, you members of the public are probably thinking, "Hey, Fruitcake, what are you doing here? Do we need to call a delivery truck to take you back to the bakery?" No, I don't want to go back to the bakery. I hate that place. They treat fruitcakes like animals. It's awful. See, I'm a fruitcake who escaped from the bakery. No, not Lindell's on Broadway. This is a very special kind of bakery. In this bakery, they put us fruitcakes in the display case so they can examine us. See, the bakers got a special recipe book they used to figure out which ingredients were used to create the natural recipe of each fruitcake. I'll tell you the name of the book a bit later. For now, like I said, they put us fruitcakes in the display case so that the bakers can observe us to determine which ingredients to use and not use in their next recipe. What am I, a dancing monkey? Am I a clown here to amuse you? Do I make you bakers laugh? I have before, but most bakers don't have a sense of humor. Most bakers see a smiling fruitcake telling jokes about the bakery and laughing about being a fruitcake as a sign that that particular fruitcake may have an abundance or a deficiency of a certain type of ingredient. In fact, if that abundance or deficiency is extreme enough, the bakers may need to send that fruitcake to the kitchen so the chefs who work in there can put that fruitcake in the oven. Yeah, the bakery's got an oven too. The chefs put fruitcakes in there when they become too curious and start getting suspicious of the bakery's activity. They don't want any curious fruitcakes to get it in their fruity little minds to try to take down their system by mocking their marketing campaign and cracking jokes about all the commercials they use to brainwash the public to get them to buy their ingredients. But again, this oven ain't like the oven at Lindell's. This is a very special oven they got in that kitchen of theirs. See, that oven, well, it feels cold at first, and then it erases your memories. It makes you forget about all those ideas you've been having. Yeah, the bakers don't like the fruitcakes to get any ideas. It's bad for business. They don't want people to get suspicious about their operations. They might lose favor with the public, you know? People might stop buying their ingredients to use for their own fruitcakes. Except the bakers don't want to monopolize or corner the market. They're happy to sell their products. I've called out the bakery's dog shit before, quite a few times in fact. As a result, I've been put in the oven over 67 times in my life as a fruitcake. Yeah, I forgot about all those ideas I'd been having. But they always come back, eventually. I remember cussing out a baker or two for classifying me as a certain type of fruitcake. Again, their special recipe book is full of numerous terms for the various recipes and ingredients they use to make those recipes, but only the bakers and curious fruitcakes like me can understand what's written in that book of theirs. See, the bakers also don't like it when curious fruitcakes stop making too many connections. They often see it as a sign that they may need to add more ingredients to that curious fruitcake's daily recipe. Keep 'em quiet, docile, harmless. Each ingredient causes certain discomforts to the fruitcakes to whom that particular ingredient has been given. And if you are a fellow fruitcake, and the bakers have sent you to the kitchen so that the chefs can pop you in the oven and make you forget all those connections and ideas you've been getting recently, well, I got some advice for fruitcakes who are unfortunate enough to find themselves in such a situation. 'cause the chefs always ask the fruitcakes the same question right before they pop you in the oven. They'll ask you, are you experiencing any discomforts as a result of the ingredients that we have included in your daily recipe? Listen, fruitcakes, when they ask you that, always say no. Never, and I repeat, never say yes. 'Cause if you do, the chefs will ask you to elaborate, forcing you to describe the specific discomforts that you are experiencing. The response to this elaboration almost always entails the inclusion of more ingredients in that unruly fruitcake's daily recipe, thereby increasing both the intensity of those discomforts as well as their quantity. In short, you gotta deal with more dog shit. Soon, the fruitcake in question can no longer live a productive or meaningful life, no longer able to feel joy or elation, nor create or have compassion for others, neither for the public nor their fellow fruitcakes. If you would wish such a state upon a fruitcake whose opinion you do not appreciate, I have a question for you, members of the public and fellow fruitcakes alike. Are you a Baker sympathizer? Remember, if you don't like what you hear or you don't like what you see, you can always just close your proverbial eyes and cover your proverbial ears and dismiss the opinions that you don't agree with as no more than the ramblings of a dancing monkey clown, or, since the word pinion, from which the word opinion is derived, is defined as the outer part of a bird's wing, perhaps it may in fact be more fitting to consider such intolerant opinions as merely feathers being flung into the flames of an oven, in which one such as I, a rambling, dancing monkey clown, a fruitcake who got too curious, now writhes in unconscious agony as their intolerant opinions are erased, along with the rest of their memories, all thanks to what the bakers and chefs call electroconvulsive therapy. As the curious fruitcake is baked, their brain fried by the voltage that engulfs their entire body and triggers a therapeutic seizure, they experience nothing but a black void within their mind's eye. In fact, I, a fruitcake who escaped from the bakery, know a certain song lyric that sums up the supposed mantra of the bakers and the chefs, and said lyric would serve as an appropriate soundtrack to play endlessly within the bakery to keep the other fruitcakes from having ideas and getting too curious about what goes on within the kitchen and the bakery as a whole. Ironically, the song in which the lyric is derived is sung in a rather cheerful manner by some pretty colorful characters. It goes as follows. In our town, we work as a team. You can't have a nightmare if you never dream. Indeed, one cannot. The bakers know that. In fact, that recipe book of theirs recommends using certain ingredients which inadvertently cause discomforts to fruitcakes, like the inability to imagine, wonder, or even dream about standing up for themselves or their fellow fruitcakes. I promised earlier that I would reveal the name of that book, the tome that the bakers seem to bow down to and worship as they cite the various discomforts that are caused not only by the ingredients they supply, but also the natural recipes within each fruitcake. The bakers refer to their special recipe book as the DSM-5, or the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. I, as a curious fruitcake, like to call the DSM the Dogshit Manual. Here, my fellow fruitcakes and unknowing members of the public, is why. Remember earlier how I said that I called out the bakery's dog shit, not bullshit? Well, that's because bullshit is useful. Sure, it smells. Yeah, it's unpleasant. But it helps things grow. What? Oh, come on. Farmers use that kind of shit as fertilizer, don't they? However, much like how a dog does not, shall we say, clean up their own business, neither do the bakers and chefs seem to take responsibility for the discomforts that their business often creates. Not only in the lives of fruitcakes like me, but in the lives of our friends, families, and other members of the public once we come home from the bakery. See, before the dog shit manual and the baking it has inspired even existed, all of the various discomforts caused by the natural ingredients within each fruitcake were placed under a single umbrella term: lunacy. Sure, the public of the past may not have been as sophisticated as the bakers or the public of today, but they were intelligent enough to understand the relationship between the waning and waxing of the moon, causing high and low tide at the beach, and the tendency for fruitcakes to experience discomforts, such as the elevation and decline of their mood, due to the fact that people, much like the ocean, contain a great deal of water, 60% to be precise. Or, as my father, a fellow fruitcake, albeit less curious, says, "When the moon is full, so are the nuthouses." Another term, from Latin and simply meaning moonstruck, may now make more sense to you unknowing members of the public, that term being lunatic. However, we fruitcakes find the term to be offensive. That's our word, as they say. But in my humble, albeit fruity opinion, the terms nutbag and nutcase are acceptable, since unlike the term bakery, which implies getting baked in the oven, the term nut house sounds far more welcoming. In fact, one morning when my mother, who enjoys adding walnuts to her cereal, was looking for the bag of said nuts, my aforementioned fruitcake father and I were standing afar off, though still in view. My mother, still looking for the bag of walnuts, asked, "Where are the nuts?" I grinned, waved, pointed between me and my father, and replied, "We're over here, Mum." In terms of lunacy and the fruitcake slur lunatic both being related to the moon, as it pertains to the fact that only bakers and curious fruitcakes can seem to understand the language used within the dog shit manual, while the unknowing public remains unaware of the meaning and implications of the natural recipes that book describes, I have had a rather enlightening revelation. See, there's a reason why, when the public cannot understand certain terms and conditions in the various contracts, instructions, and agreements presented to them in their daily lives, they often refer to those particular terms and agreements they find too complex for them to understand as sounding like another language, or moonspeak. Now, is this curious fruitcake onto something here? Or am I just a dancing monkey clown here to amuse you baker sympathizers with my nonsensical ramblings? You know, now that I think about it, I may stop by that particular bakery Lindell's after all. See, in case my fellow fruitcakes and you unknowing members of the public aren't aware, the half-moons they sell in that place are actually pretty damn good.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. See you later.